All right, my philosophers. This is, of course, week 4 for philosophy. Um, 1500. For a second, I almost said 2000. I've taught, I teach a few different philosophy courses, but this is 1500. Philosophy 1500. So I need to give you a caveat as we start this week. My political ideologies and your political ideologies, we don't expect other people to agree with us. For instance, my ideologies on politics or religion, they're mine. Okay. I have the duty to be able to substantiate why I believe and I think the way that I do, but I don't have the right to force someone else to agree with me and to see things my way. As we enter into this week, politics is going to be coming up. And I need for each of us to remember that it's okay if people have different ideas when it comes to religion or politics or etc. And that's okay. You see, reality is like a play. And if I haven't given you this illustration before, permit me this for a second. Reality is like a play on a stage. And I have my seat, and I'm seated there in the theater, and I'm watching the play. And let's say it's Romeo and Juliet. I can only perceive from my vantage point what Romeo, Juliet, and all the rest of the characters, how they interact, relate, what they say, and what they do. Somebody who's seated in a different place in the theater might have a better vantage point, and they get information that I might miss. And so what's best for me is during intermission is I go talk to people about what they saw. And I learn vicariously through them, which humans are able to learn vicariously. And I learn from them about their perspective. Now, I might agree with it, I might disagree with it. It might not be what I thought I saw, but it might give me more information that helps me understand what I saw. Now, it's on me whether I want to accept it as valid or for me or as being reality. But I can't deny that it's valid for that person. They were in that seat. Their perception of the play, of that reality, is valid for them. But I want to hear what they have to say because I know that my perspective is limited. So I get as much information as I can from the play and from the other people who watch it. Now, if I just stay and I talk to the people next to me on my left and my right, and I only speak to them, I create a problem, and it's a cognitive bias. It's an echo chamber. I'm only talking to people, and I only get information back from people who agree with what I saw. They saw the same thing from a similar vantage point. We're all in agreement together. And if this is the only people I listen to, I've got a problem because now there's an echo chamber. What happens if I walk into a cave and I go, hello? It goes, hello, 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 hello. That's what an echo chamber is. People echoing back what you're already saying, what you're already thinking. I don't like echo chambers. Philosophically, and academically, I like to get as much about as the reality that's before me as I can. And I can't do that by being stuck in an echo chamber. So I talk to people who have different perspectives. Okay. I'll talk to anybody. And that doesn't mean I agree with their perspective, but it's valid for them. They were seated where they're at. So I need to listen because it can give me clues on the reality before me. Now, reality itself is an interesting concept. It is a shared perception of the world around us. So the reality technically is the areas that line up with the rest of the people that see this. So in this example, the reality is the shared experience of watching Romeo and Juliet played out on a stage. Now, my understanding and my perception of reality, it's mine. I own it. And it's valid. But I want to understand the real and deep reality. So I talk to other people. And that's what we're doing this week. When we do our work online this week, when we do our discussions, and there are no assignments this week, but there's two discussions. When we do our discussions, We are sharing with other people, and I don't want anyone to feel that they can't truly say how they perceive things. I want this to be a safe area. If you ever take, as a senior or a junior, I teach another class, Management 4950. And in there, we talk about psychological safety for teams. And psychological safety for teams doesn't mean everybody on the team agrees, but everybody agrees to permit everybody to have their own perspective and to share that perspective. We don't reject their perspective. Because when we start judging somebody's perception of reality, we we actually judge them and they feel attacked. And what happens is a human being goes through a process called self-censorship, which means instead of contributing to the conversation, they hold back and they no longer participate in that particular group. And I don't want anybody to experience that. So when we hit the material this week, hit it with an academic mind. An academic mind, we look at both sides of the issue, and even more, if there's more than two sides to an issue, we want to look at them. When I did my dissertation, I had to consider I was wrong in my premise. I had to. When we make a hypothesis, when we set that hypothesis in motion or that research question, we could be completely wrong, or we could be completely right, or it could be something altogether different. As a scientist, it's up to me to explore. Yes, I am a scientist. I'm a social scientist. I deal with organizations. All right. I want the reality. I don't know it all. So I turn to people who have experienced things I haven't because they don't know everything either. But together we amass our academic knowledge and we come up with a shared consensus on reality pertaining to any given topic. So in this class, I want everybody to feel confident and comfortable enough to share their perspectives. But I don't want anybody to judge. And I will be going through, as I do every week, the discussions. And if I see anybody doing anything that is unethical, that is attacking somebody or belittling or judgmental in your replies and responses, I'm going to have a word with you. Okay, we're gonna have a talk. This is a learning experience, and we all can grow. So let's use that carefully this week. Okay, now this week we're really wanting to look at, well, the title of the week is Life, Liberty, and Ellipses. So your material will go through a bit about John Locke. John Locke, as you're going to see, actually was one of the philosophers that put the gears in motion that led to the French Revolution. The French Revolution is what led to the American Revolution. The American Revolution led to other types of revolutions. And so we owe a lot to philosophy. We owe a lot to John Locke. And of course, there is a philosopher and an author, Ayn Rand, and she dealt with what's called ethical egoism. And in a nutshell, I'm going to try to explain ethical egoism in a nutshell. Every person has an ego. That's not a bad thing. It just is a fact. Psychologically, we have an ego. That's my sense of myself. An ethical sense application of egoism, which is an inflation of one's ego or a concentration on one's ego. An ethical way of doing that is I've got certain rights. I have a right to my own perspective. I have a right to, well, as you're going to learn, owning property, freedoms, liberty, things like this. But when I apply this in an ethical way, that means I'm not just trying to grab this freedom for myself, but I also permit other people to have it. And the ethical goes a little bit further. Being ethical goes a little bit further in I'm not going to be setting up a bunch of rules that force somebody to miss out on this freedom. In other words, and there's a difference. I'm saying rules, not laws. Of course, we need laws in a nation. We're civilized, and so we need laws as a social grouping of what not to do, the basics. Okay, I don't want to go kill somebody. That's not good. Why? Because I don't want somebody killing me. I don't need to be going and stealing from people. Why? Because I don't want people stealing from me. See, that's an application of ethical egoism. The ego is not bad. Concentrating on studying, feeding it, and promoting it is not bad within certain constraints as long as it's from an ethical point of view. And that is, I'm not trying to abuse others, I'm not trying to take from others, and I allow others to have the same thing I want. I'm all about fairness. If when I'm in a relationship, I want to, the relationship rules should be good for me and for my partner. And there shouldn't be a set that I have for my partner, but I don't follow those rules. If I set rules that involve my partner, then I need to be willing to follow those rules as well. And once again, being ethical really is a lot. And so this is a lot to say this. This week can be a touchy week. Let's take it as academics. We're in college. This is a place to think, to critically think. And what that means using our faculties of logic and reason to explore some of these concepts, because it's not the end result we're after. We're not looking to say ethical egoism is correct. We're not looking to say this political ideology is correct and this one isn't. What we're looking to do is learn about the different ideologies, the different approaches that are out there, and really explore them and learn what it is that makes them work or not work. We need to understand. So I hope that you have a wonderful week. And if you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, please send me an email. You do have two discussions. And last week on the video, I said that your discussions are due on Wednesday. That's because in most of my other classes, they are due on Wednesdays. This class is on Friday. So your discussion, the initial post, is due on Friday. You have two discussions that you're doing this week. So you have to do two initial posts and you have to do two sets of replies. And so you have two replies for one discussion and two replies for another. And those replies are to at least two classmates, and they're important, very important. So I look forward to seeing you in the discussions. Have a great week. Where's the off button?